What's up, guys? This is Joey McKernan with the Equip Show, and I am here with a great guest here today. But as you guys know, our passion, what we do, what we're for, is nonprofit organizations, and the Child Saving Institute is an incredible organization, CSI. I'm here with James Syme today. James, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, it is great to have you here. And I just want to, real quick, give us like a 10-second elevator pitch. Man, what does CSI do? What are you guys about?
Oh gosh, 10 seconds.
Just 10,
Yeah, 10 seconds.
maybe 15 if you want.
133 years. So we would be a multi-service agency. So we help families, kids and kind of families from 6 weeks, kids age all the way up to young adults. So child welfare, as far as systems, we interact with child welfare system, juvenile justice system,
Wow.
early childhood education. We do some behavioral health services, community-based services. So after 133 years, that's why I say 10 to 15 seconds. I probably should get better at that, but I also
No,
feel
you're
like
great.
we're like, oh wow, that's really selling something short, I'm sure. Right? So we do a lot of things, and really, the evolution is responding to what the community needs, and that's really kind of been in the DNA since the 1890s. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to dig into that
yeah,
history a little bit here in a second, but
absolutely.
I'd love to learn about you, man. Like, tell us, how did you land here as
Yeah,
the CEO and president?
yeah. So yeah, that's probably a meandering journey as well. I think for me, I always knew since a young age, right? And I think life gives you perspective the older you get as to like why these
Mm,
things were kind of under.
yep.
But I always knew I wanted to help, and I thought that that was going to be through law enforcement. So
Mm,
I actually set out to do my undergraduate degree at the University of Northern Iowa, criminology major, sociology minor. And it happened, I think, towards the end of my junior year, going into my senior year. I had a professor that said, "Hey, I know you think you want to do this thing, but I think you'd be better equipped to work with youth." And he suggested that I do an internship at the training school in Eldora, Iowa, which was a place where youth were adjudicated in the state of Iowa. And
okay.
so I said, okay, you're smarter than me, and
Yeah.
like I have to do this anyway, so why not? And so I did that, and it did change my path. So I
Mm,
started working with youth through the internship, was hired pretty immediately after graduating. Um, Subsequently found out that maybe government employment maybe is not James's speed. There's just a lot of red tape and things to navigate, and
sure.
when I was coming out of college, there was a big constriction, '07, '08, '09, a lot going on in the world
Yeah.
financially. And so that was tough
Yeah.
to be getting rooted. And so I, got a master's in public administration while working at the university or while working at the training school, and kind of felt compelled to do more nonprofits. And
Mm,
so got my first opportunity to lead a small organization in Waterloo, Iowa, prior to moving out to Omaha, and came to Omaha with a role with Boys Town. And really since then kind of you know led an organization in Council Bluffs called Micah House. And
mhm.
then, now surprisingly, astonishingly, going back to 2021, the opportunity for Child Saving Institute, which for me, always serving children and families is kind of the core,
Sure.
what really kind of revs me up.
Yeah.
So you look across the landscape, there's a handful of legacy organizations.
Mm,
CSI is one of those.
yeah.
And so I was really privileged to have the opportunity to even interview and throw my name in the hat, and, really fortunate in 2021 to get an opportunity to lead such an amazing organization. And so that's the short of it. And, looking back, I mentioned, you don't really know maybe until you get a little bit more road under the tires. As a child raised by a single mom, five brothers and sisters, so seven of us total, we benefited a whole heck of a lot from a lot of nonprofit organizations
Mm.
supporting my mom. An organization in Burlington, Iowa, actually helped my mom get a mortgage
Oh,
in a
wow.
house. And
Wow.
prior to that, we were couch surfing, 6 months of literal homelessness, living in an abandoned house. And that's just one of the
Yeah.
multitude of nonprofit organizations that wrapped around my mom and my brothers and sisters. And so I can now tell that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
When I was, a young teenager thinking I just want to help,
Yeah.
I really wasn't connecting the dots that way. But really underneath, when somebody meets me and says, wow, you do have a lot of passion,
Yep.
it really is about that understanding. Like any time I get to interact with a client, I do try to see my world through
Yeah.
that client's lens, and my experience directly
Wow.
with my brothers, sisters, my mom. I can see that
Yeah.
pretty clearly through a lot of the
Yeah.
clients we have an opportunity to serve.
That's awesome, man. Tell me a little bit about CSI
Yeah.
and like what are you guys like what is your philosophy for impact?
Yeah, and I think that's a great
I'm
question.
throwing the big
Yeah,
questions at you.
good question.
Like
Philosophy. I would say, what people don't know about the name, right? Child Saving Institute tells you a lot.
yeah,
Child saving was actually a movement in the late 1890s, early
really.
1900s across the country. So there was a group of people kind of patchwork together. So you have to think there were no systems in place. So there was no child welfare system, no juvenile justice system, no child labor laws. So across the country, there were people that popped up and said, this isn't going so great. In
Wow.
Omaha, you have to think 9, 10, and 11-year-olds, late 1890, they're going to a full day's factory work. They're not going
Right.
to school.
Right.
Um, and so Child Saving Institute as an organization was one of the preeminent across this country
Wow.
leading to develop these systems. Now, we could spend a whole other podcast
Sure.
episode talking about how those systems maybe in today's world aren't functioning in the way that we would like them to. But we can also port ourselves back 133 years and imagine a community without systems
Yeah.
and the impacts on children and families. So, what does that look like today?
Wow.
I think we try to still today root ourselves in best practices or evidence based practices. And so there's no real single guiding mechanism because we have, dozens of programs and services we offer.
Mm.
So for early childhood education, that might be using the pyramid model in our
Mm-hmm.
early childhood education centers. Um, in our therapy practice, it might be, using CBT, DBT. I'm going to use all these words, right? So evidence-based practices to support clients who've experienced trauma,
Mm.
which tends to be a population we serve not exclusively, but through our work and through what people know CSI about, it is one of those main referral streams. So I'd say kind of historically, we were a leader in that space, developing some of those best
Wow.
practices. Now we have the advantage that obviously nonprofits and research and kind of all the education that comes with doing good work. We're not one of the only ones. That good work is happening, heck, even across Omaha. We don't
Yeah.
even have to look nationally.
Sure.
So we try to pull in those models and constantly be refining what we're doing and how we're doing. And because the needs of clients change, as well as the education about what might have been great 15 years ago. Now we have a little bit more understanding. So I think it's important to keep that flexibility and adapt your model as you learn more. And so that's really in our DNA.
What does a picture of success look like for you guys?
Oh, wow.
I'm really throwing good ones at
That
you.
that is you know, that's I could go into some programs and services where the length of time that we have a client and we're able to see this whole arc, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you're probably asking that and you'd be okay with any answer. Maybe the audience is looking for this kind of hero's journey, and we as an organization maybe get to serve as the guide for part of that. And we do have programs and services where that's an opportunity. But we also have other programs and services like our triage center. So we partner with the Project Harmony. Any child in the community that is removed from their home is taken to the triage center. So our support with that child, it might be hours. So we might get 2 hours.
Sure.
And sometimes it's getting them, chicken nuggets, a fresh set of clothes, all while they've probably gone through one of the most stressful events they've ever had to endure. So a removal from their family situation, now taken into agency care, and our staff are just there kind of tending them
Yeah.
during this period of uncertainty. And we may have other staff members that are through our foster care department trying to seek permanent placement.
Yep.
So how do you measure success in a matter of hours? And I do think that's showing up and understanding who's across from you and trying to meet them where they are. And so whether that's a 2-hour service or whether that's a 2-year intervention, I think if we do that every single day, I think the end outcome will be success. I think sometimes success isn't pretty like a present with a bow under the tree, unfortunately. And that's something we have to reconcile all the time, because sometimes we wish we could do more, be more.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're limited from the intervention itself. Sometimes we're limited from the resources we have. And so it's a challenge to reconcile that. And a great question to ask. Yeah. I wish I had a cleaner answer.
No, it's great. I mean, I love what you said there, that it's not always pretty with a bow on top.
Yes.
And that leads me to my next question, which is, what are the misunderstandings that people might have about childhood trauma in a city,
Well, that's also a fantastic question, and something I think the evidence and information on that topic is still evolving. So I would first challenge everybody to, pick up a book. There are some pretty approachable resources as it relates to that. The Deepest Well is one. The Body Keeps the Score is probably more scientific and complex. But I think what we know is childhood trauma, even if it's just on the subconscious level, can really impact an individual's ability to flourish. And flourish is a terminology that positive psychologist Martin Seligman uses pretty frequently, and I've connected that ability to flourish with the impacts of childhood trauma, because I do think it's kind of like putting bricks on your head as you're trying to succeed. And so if you look at childhood trauma as, like, say, in an adverse childhood experiences ACEs score perspective, from some of our work, I mean, even my time over at Micah House, we would find a client who was experiencing homelessness on average had an ACE score of 6. So now you're going to tell me that childhood experience is so disconnected to their adult reality of experiencing housing instability? And that clearly is not the case. But I think as a society, we tend to see, well, now I'm getting the adult version.
Exactly.
And this expectation that somehow when you become a legal adult in Nebraska is 19, that the switch flips and everything is now healed, and now we expect you to kind of conform and move forward. And unfortunately, trauma is not like that, depending on the intensity and depending on the individual, because trauma also has this generational impact. It literally can impact your DNA. So if trauma has existed in your family for generations, it's not us just working through the trauma that you literally experienced. Your DNA may predispose you for substance use, behavioral health challenges, and the like. So it's complex. I would say if there's anything you take away, it's probably far more complex as you spend time in this space. And so what we can always do is just be a little bit more empathetic and be a little bit more passionate, because what we don't want is these drive-by judgments and assumptions. We want people to move forward, and obviously we're limited in how we can do that as a community. But I think it's so much better if we all have open minds and come to that table, and then we can wrap our arms around what resources are available, who's here to do what. And we can put whether it's child welfare system issues, housing instability, whatever issue we were to put on the table, there is some thread probably back to childhood trauma. And how do you reconcile that today when you're dealing with a 45-year-old adult who might be having a variety of challenges? I think it's one step at a time, building trust and moving forward. And that sometimes is an inch by inch progress. And that's the other thing. We have to be okay with inch by inch progress, because it's not pretty with a bow on it. We hope we can see that. But sometimes it's planting seeds to be harvested down the road.
I love that. I feel like as adults, we look at other adults and we're just like, adult.
Adult. It's like, got to figure it out.
Drive faster. Get out of my, don't be such a pain. And we just look at that product of an adult because we're an adult too. But really, we're looking at a a compilation of a child
Yes.
and experiences
Yep.
and good and bad. And I think that's so good. It's hard for, I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
But on this one, like, you know, you get
Yeah.
frustrated, but it's like, I like you said, like, we just need a little bit more empathy sometimes. We just need to remind ourselves that, you know, there's probably something there, and there's stuff in me too, like that I have to deal with. So,
All of us.
yeah,
All of us. And
yeah,
sometimes that's showing up in that way that we respond in that situation. Again,
yeah,
we're fascinating. We're not simple creatures,
no,
and what we even understand about our own internal operations is limited.
it's a
And so,
mystery for me.
yeah,
A
exactly.
little bit, just a
Day,
little bit.
day to day. Monday's a little slower processing speed, though, sometimes.
Yeah, especially after the fourth.
Yeah.
We're just in here after the fourth, hanging out,
Yeah, hanging out.
recovering. Tell us about your big, beautiful building that I keep hearing people talk about all across Omaha.
Yeah, so big beautiful building is coming to a completion, at least the addition part of it. And so, yeah, one of the things that really interested me in Child Saving Institute when I had the opportunity to interview for the role was obviously the mission, the impact, the history of the organization, but is also gearing up for a large project. And the project really, from a programmatic standpoint, expanding access to behavioral health services, of which we are doing by building a dedicated clinic, which expands the number of clinicians we can have, expanding our early childhood education services at our Dodge location. We also operate an early childhood center over at the College of St. Mary, our Spellman Center. So that's a space that we occupy pretty heavily. And then getting the getting the space right for our youth shelter. So we operate a youth shelter actually on site at 46th and Dodge, which I think a lot of folks are unaware of. And that referral stream are kids who are currently involved in the juvenile justice system. And so the current challenge we had with our facility was it did seem more institutional than we would like. And we, again, back to understanding that regardless of what brought that youth to CSI or brought them
Yeah.
to being involved with the juvenile justice system, these are 14, 15-year-old kids. And again, if you didn't know that they were involved with, what I always say is like, if you take youth we serve in the juvenile justice system or youth we may serve in the child welfare system, and I removed the fact of what system that they were in and just told you their story, you would be astonished at how similar those experiences are. It's just, what is the opportunity for that youth? Some, luck of or bad luck of neighborhood or social system just puts them in the wrong place at the wrong time to get involved with the wrong individuals, and you can just see how the snowball builds over time, and then now all of a sudden they're in the juvenile justice system. Other kid, maybe similar childhood experiences, they might have that one adult in their life that kind of speaks into them, and they don't, or they can fend that off, but there still might be trauma in the home. So they might be a child or a youth that we would serve over at our triage center. But you pull back the dynamics or start to unpeel the onion, you see two youth with very complex situations of which they need support. And what we didn't want and what we don't want is to have the facility kind of contribute to any stigmas that the youth might be experiencing. Because we don't want the course that they're currently on to be the defined course. We want to alter that. And so expanding our behavioral health services, expanding our early childhood, and getting that facility and that space right for that youth shelter. So now we have a gymnasium on site, we have a classroom, we have open rec areas, we have a defined therapist office. So allowing us to do our work better in a more conducive environment, more natural light, more colors, is just, we're better able to do our work in that space. So we're really excited. So that the building really is about creating impact. And then you talk about, as an organization, how do we strategically align ourselves to create more impact, not only today, but in the future. We also took the advantage and kind of added some floor space. So we know, after you've been in this thing for 13 decades as an organization, we've continued to grow. So we have a little bit of space within the building that'll allow us to grow, likely add staff members to allow us to do our community work. So that's that's what's happening.
Wow.
The pain that people have dealt with is the beyond fun stuff of the traffic and the like. But really excited to open our doors and let the community see the product. And if you come for services, I'm really excited that your experience should be enhanced, because we really did try to center our clients, center our staff. And I think through that experience, the building is beautiful, but it's beautiful with intention.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to come check it out.
Yeah,
Come
absolutely.
tour it
Anytime.
sometime. Yeah,
Anytime.
come see. I mean, I've heard probably 10 people tell me about it.
Yeah,
So just
awesome.
just around town, and I know it's not just about a building, but I know
Yeah,
space matters and it tells a story.
it absolutely does.
One last question, and then share how people can get involved. What would you say your guys' biggest challenges as an organization?
Yeah, I think like any business, right? There's this misconception about nonprofits. What I will always say is nonprofit's a tax status, right?
Mm.
We'll take profit, right?
Yeah.
We still need revenue to operate, and
Yeah.
the challenges of figuring that out, like any
Hmm.
business over the last 5 years. You talk about the impacts of COVID, the
Mm.
inflation.
What
Yeah,
year did you start?
I joined in 2021. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you,
So
so you came in right after COVID. Well, still lingering COVID.
COVID's lingering,
Yeah.
but inflation is just kind of setting in, and
Yeah.
so wages, and so I think that's figuring out our business model, of which we're about 50% earned revenue, and about 50% we have to go fundraise. So we do events, ask for individual donations,
Hmm.
write grants. So I think that's the complexity that folks don't understand is,
Hmm.
a lot of people's big hearts are super critical to what we do. But then there's about 50% of it. It is us figuring out the most efficient way to do that, focusing on KPIs, driving towards efficiency. Um, and that's with what we can see. There's been a little bit of uncertainty with some of our funding streams, some of that tied with, some of the changes at the federal level.
Yeah.
Some of those, we're looking at as an organization, but we're also looking at the ecosystem of that.
Mm.
So if that impacts a nonprofit partner that we partner with,
Hmm.
is there a secondary impact to anything that we may be doing with them? So I think that's the part that any leader of any business is always focused on,
Yeah.
that. And I think since 2021, there's not really been a time where it's like, I always say that easy bake, set it and forget. There's no been set it and forget it.
Mm.
We've constantly been retooling, refocusing, shifting, changing, altering, so we can continue to do what we do. And when we're trying to grow, attract the best talent, expand our facilities, it's been an interesting proposition, but
Sure.
because the community is so generous and philanthropic, we've been able to do so. But it's taken our team has been uh, really open to shifting, changing, altering. And so that's kind of grown to be the norm. Maybe we'll be able to settle into a groove at some point in time, but I do think to grow the way that we've grown over the last several years, in spite of all of those challenges, has taken a really agile workforce, and I'm really appreciative of those efforts that they put in.
Yeah.
The team does the hard work every single day. It is amazing to see. Yeah, sometimes I might be able to get frustrated in moment to moment, but if I step back and just look at what they're doing every
Yeah.
single day, it is remarkable.
Yeah. That's incredible. How can people get involved?
Yeah, just I would always say click in. Childsaving.org is our website. We try to push our information out there. Follow us on social media, and learn and become an ambassador. I think we would do best when
Mm.
our mission exists around more dinner tables. And so if you need more information for that to happen, swing by for a tour. Joey's already coming. Maybe
I'm
we
coming.
can, yeah,
I'm doing it.
we can get more people in on that tour. But ask questions, learn about what we do, become an advocate of our mission, and bring us up around the dinner table, and we'll be well off.
Yeah. Childsaving.org.
Correct.
Childsaving.org, guys. Well, James, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you
your
for
time.
telling your story, man. Killed it. Guys, as you're listening, you've probably at least heard of Child Saving Institute, and incredible stuff going on there. Like you just said, be an ambassador. Tell your friends, tell your uncle, tell the people you work with, take a tour, go check out the new building. Incredible development, I already know. And thank you guys for tuning in, hanging out with us, and we'll be back here with another nonprofit. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Talk soon. Thanks, guys.